Hi there, welcome to I Alone Fly Tarot. Oh, no, that's my other channel. Welcome to Tarotland Soap Opera. Today I'm going to do a reading for Libra energy. And like usual on this channel, we're going to do two rows. The top row I refer to as High Vibe Libra energy. And the bottom row, a more worldly, shadowy energy of Libra. We all have our dualistic nature in Libra energy of what we think is just and fair. Our more worldly, shadowy nature, immaturity, pride, ego, lust, greed, of course wants us to align with our more shadowy Libra energy. And so do other shadowy people in the world. And our high vibe energy and other high vibe people in our life want us to align with our more hopeful, believing, loving Libra energy. High vibe energy in Libra would be about being balanced within yourself. Libra is represented by the scales of justice. We have our worldly nature. We have our hopeful, believing nature to go live our life. Yes, we are a human being. Yes, we want some of these things of the world, but go about it in a balanced way. In free will, when we choose one thing, we have to sacrifice something else. So it's trying to sacrifice the least amount of things to get what you want. And if you're in high vibe energy, you're not willing to sacrifice like truth and love and justice and fairness just to have those things of the world. I want to have a job, but I want to be in a job that I like. I want a job, but I want to work with people who are just or fair, encouraging. I want to be in friendships and relationships, but I want them to be just and fair. And if I'm going to be in a romantic relationship, I want it to be because of love, not for some other reason. And it can be hard to maintain balance within ourselves. We can indulge poor behavior in ourselves and others. And then we could sacrifice our truth. We could sacrifice love. We could sacrifice it being based on love. We could sacrifice it being more just and fair. And there's some people, which is hard for people to accept, that are more motivated and inspired by love. There are people in the world who do not want to do love. You can get hurt doing love. You have to come out from behind your ego. The bottom row can represent our more worldly, egoic nature. Some people don't want to let their more hopeful, believing, loving nature out to play in the world. They get hurt. So their ego, their self-protective nature, runs their life. And they're maybe never going to let their more authentic nature out to play in the world. And instead, they'll continue to live more from their mind than their heart. Libra is air sign energy, but anyone in their Libra energy of self could decide, and I view Libra as represented by the King of Swords, and anybody could harness a more shadowy King of Swords energy. It can be their more self-protective, self-defensive nature, living more from their mind than their heart. And we need to see the truth of it. Now, I'm also getting a card out of the Cost of Becoming deck, and we got Unease Sharpened Your Instincts. So, we were given our intuition. It was one of the gifts that we've been given to help navigate in this world. In a world of duality where some people can wear good false masks, but they're immature, bossy, controlling, prideful, egotistical, narcissistic, or whatever, we were given our intuition to help guide us, right? But up here we have the Seven of Swords, which is Aquarius energy, and a big component of the Seven of Swords is the 5, the 6, and the 7 are all Aquarius energy. So we have a dream is what the 5 can represent, but then are we willing to listen to our intuition, which is the 2 of Swords, which is Libra energy? Staying balanced within yourself, listening to your intuition. The 7 of Swords can talk about deception, manipulation, being more about the world, more about themselves, having hope and faith and belief and love, listening to our intuition while we maintain balance within ourselves as we get to know people about what really more drives and motivates them in their Libra energy. Are they more about themselves, more about the world? Are they deceptive and manipulative? Do they have, in high vibe Aquarius, more hope and faith and belief and love? Are they able to look at life from a higher perspective, keep things in perspective? Do they get all caught up in their head? How do they harness their Aquarius energy? more about themselves, the world, or have more hope and faith and belief and love? Who is telling the truth? But to listen to our intuition, that's another lesson to be learned. We got a lot of lessons to learn in life. And first we got to grow ourselves up and quit being more self-indulgent, prideful, immature, selfish, greedy, lazy, whatever. And then it's also learning to listen to our intuition, but pride comes before the fall, and we can think we're so smart, that, oh, no, I could see that something doesn't seem like a good match, but because I'm more manipulated in my worldly nature, I want those things. I could be attracted to those things. I could like indulging in those things, that I don't listen to my intuition. And then we have the Six of Cups, which could be repeating a pattern of the past. In the Knight of Cups, we kind of want to live an illusion. Kind of don't want to see the truth. And then we keep repeating a pattern of the past. And we'll all repeat patterns of the past and repeat past patterns until we kind of get tired of it and kind of see that it's keeping us kind of stuck. And we're not moving forward in Libra energy of the Four Swords and the Chariot in love, in a balanced, emotionally inspired, loving way. That because we have some fear of listening to our intuition and maybe loving and believing in ourselves, and we might have some things that get us caught up in our head, we don't listen to love and intuition to guide us. So then we kind of repeat a pattern, and could repeat that pattern all our life until repeating that pattern causes us enough mental conflict that, we'd like to move things forward a little different and maybe start to see that in that job, in that friendship, in that relationship, it's not going to move forward differently. It's going to move forward like that. And, for a long time, we can tell ourselves, no, this is just and fair. No, this will be victorious and successful. And in a lot of ways, it can seem just and fair and victorious and successful by kind of worldly standards. But is it just and fair and balanced and inspired by love if it's romantic? Or if it's a job, are people being just and fair and loving and encouraging, and there's the opportunity for people to keep moving forward? Or kind of being in a dead-end job where there is no potential for you to learn new skills, make more money, and you should just stay here. So shadowy energy, at the big picture kind of represented by the devil, are all these things that manipulate us and our worldly nature and our fear and our insecurity and our codependency and all those things. And sometimes shadowy people will prey on the fact that, if people get in a job, get in a friendship, get in a relationship, we'd all like those things to work out the way we'd like them to work out. So we don't have to go get a different job, in a different friendship, in a different relationship. And sometimes that's what shadowy people are counting on, to trap, more just, fair, loving people in kind of a shadowy environment where their dreams aren't going to come into reality. They're not going to get justice. They are not going to move forward. They are not going to move forward in a more emotionally balanced, just, fair environment, because that's not the type of environment they're in. So we can have shadowy people trying to present themselves as more high vibe. And to a degree, some of those people might be more motivated and inspired by love, but some of them are just being deceptive and manipulative. That is not the truth. They are really more shadowy, more self-focused, more about themselves, more about the world, more about the ego or the image, want to be indulged. It's just that so long as the people they're in a relationship with kind of buy into the illusion of who they are, and as long as those people aren't kind of willing to deal with the truth of it, well then, it keeps going on the way it goes on. And eventually some people might start to listen to their intuition. It's like, wait a minute. Yes, I want a job. I want a friendship. I want a relationship. Kind of the Six of Cups. We want to be in relationships with other people. But am I sacrificing truth and love? Am I sacrificing moving forward in friendships, jobs, and relationships with people who are more motivated to move forward with me in that way? Or am I in a relationship with people who I could have love for and they could have love for me, but our dreams are different? The way they want to move forward and their idea of the dream life, their truth is let's keep doing this. And if my idea of the dream life, Aquarius energy can talk about that, is that I want to move forward. I don't want to keep repeating old patterns all the time. I want to work through things that kind of manipulate me to heal. The truth sets us free. Then those things don't manipulate us the way they used to manipulate us. And then we've kind of dropped some baggage and we're ready to move forward in life differently. And we can have people in our life that we love, but they could have things that they need to heal, but they don't want to deal with the truth of it. So it kind of keeps them stuck. And then they want us to stay stuck with them. Let the things that manipulate them manipulate you too, because you love them. Well, shadowy energy can kind of be staying in denial of the truth. This isn't just and fair. This manipulates me or you or us. Are we willing to deal with the truth of it? And again, there's going to be some people like, nope, I want to keep staying in denial of the truth. I don't want to see what manipulates me, which could be themselves, it could be other people in their life, it could be the world. And other people eventually kind of work through their own issues, and it's like, well, those things don't manipulate me like that. And then it's kind of like, we kind of have different dreams. How we want to move forward is differently. And though it could be kind of heartbreaking from the Seven of Swords down to the Four of Swords is letting go of the Three of Swords. And other people could find it mentally conflicting is what the Seven of Swords can be, and kind of heartbreaking. Love gives birth to new things. Love keeps growing kind of to its full potential, willing to get out of its ego, to keep giving birth to new versions of ourselves, like we shed being a 15-year-old to become an 18-year-old. We saw kind of what needed to go, and we said, yep, I need to see the truth of it. Those are kind of some more immature ways of living life, viewing life. If I want to move forward to get the justice I deserve, I need to love myself, work through those things that manipulate me, see the truth of it, and I need to quit investing in repeating some of those ways of living life or viewing life or treating people or whatever it could be. And high vibe energy is about becoming independent of an old way of looking at life. So, we did that when we went from age 18 to age 21 and from age 21 to age 25. If we really learned the lessons we were meant to learn, and then we were like, yeah, I don't want to go back to repeating those patterns. I used to live life that way. I used to act that way. I used to think that way. That was how I viewed the world. I don't think that way anymore. That's not my truth anymore. And there's other people who still could think some ways of acting, behaving, or treating people are still just and fair. They just try to hide it, kind of deceive and manipulate people, and try to move forward with other people. But then they might periodically want to repeat some of these poor past patterns. And that can be a problem with people in their life who love them because they love them. So it's kind of like, I don't want to move on without them, whether it's their brother, sister, mom, dad, friend, whoever, And so they can kind of keep indulging them while they kind of repeat some poor patterns over. But it's kind of like, I thought we were all done with that. I thought we kind of put those things behind us. It's like being 25 or 35 and dating someone or being their friend, and then they do some shit that's like ninth grade high school or something. It's like, what in the hell? I thought everybody who was of a certain age had kind of learned that's immature, or that's being full of yourself or deceptive or manipulative or whatever. And it's just like, oh my gosh, that, again, there can come a time where people are like, I can't keep doing this. If that's the truth of who you are, go do that, but go do it with someone else. I'm leaving. Um, if I don't have to work with you at work, I'm not going to. If I don't have to visit with you in the neighborhood or some organization or out socializing, I'm not going to. Because I've kind of seen that you repeat some of these patterns that, you could view some people as kind of immature or egotistical or bossy or whatever. Those people in turn could have people in their life that they don't want to hang out with because they find them more immature, more bossy, more controlling than them. Everybody to a degree could feel this way with different people in their life. And we're just kind of looking to find the people that are more on the same page. Some people like to be in relationships and they have a little more hope and faith and belief in love. They just might still be working through the concept of being more just and fair in a relationship. And they still kind of like and think it should be a little bit more about them. So if they are kind of bossy or controlling or kind of manipulative, they might, just everybody's at different emotional maturity levels. So, high vibe people have went through probably enough life experience with different people in their life to be willing to get to know people and knowing in a world of duality, there's always going to be more high vibe people and more shadowy people. You have free will choice, so you have to come across all sorts of different kinds of people. And as you move forward in your life, you're just kind of listening to your intuition, who does seem to be a little more deceptive, manipulative, full of themselves, maybe try to tempt you more in your worldly nature of ego or want for these things of the world, to try to use that to manipulate you, and who seems to be not do that, and who really seems to work together with you in a just and fair way. And even though they've went through their issues in life, willing to get to know people. Like, I'm not going to be fearful and defensive of everyone because I've kind of learned just to, people are going to be who they're going to be, and I'm just going to get to know them and listen to my intuition and not stay in denial of the truth. And when they show me they're kind of shadowy, oh, okay. Thank you for showing me that you're kind of difficult to work with. And then I'll move on, you know? And just like you're doing that as you move forward in life, other people are doing that. And within being people who are motivated and inspired by love, if you looked at that as a spectrum, just like when we were 21, we look at all the 21-year-olds. Well, they're on different emotional maturity levels, right? Could the people who really did quit being more like a 15 or an 18-year-old be more like a 21-year-old? They're not wanting to repeat some of those old patterns, but they can still kind of be at different emotional maturity levels, different things that we could view as just and fair, how more balanced we are, how we've learned to love ourselves. Are we still kind of more codependent? Are we still more immature? Are we... I don't know. I'm sure you get the idea, so it's just trying to find the right people that we kind of think are more on the same page as us. And the high vibe people will listen to their intuition. They will maintain balance. Both the Four Swords of Libra and the Chariot of Cancer can represent, I'm going to maintain balance within myself. I'm not going to be tipped out of balance where I indulge poor behavior in myself because I want some of these things of the world. And if I think people are kind of tempting me more in my more worldly nature, less greed, pride, ego, or something, I'm not going to tip out of balance and indulge them or indulge myself. I have my truth. I want just, fair, kind of authentic and loving relationships with people who are more independent to whatever degree I'm independent of my shadow nature of having learned lessons in life. And I'm looking for people who are more on that same page. And as you move forward in that way, there can be shadowy people that are in your life that you meet. And eventually some of those people are like, well, shit. I can't manipulate that person. I can't get them to kind of buy into the illusion of who I am, maybe because they've had some more life experience with people like that, and they're less about indulging themselves and making their life maybe more out of their want for these things of the world to be willing to indulge people kind of in some kind of shadowy behavior. Even though they could be motivated kind of by love, but everybody can be more immature, more prideful, a little more stubborn, difficult to deal with or whatever. It's like, well shit, I can't get those people to I can't get them to do it this way, and that is the way they like to do it. So eventually, even if they do communicate with you or you work with them or you know them, eventually they kind of realize, oh, I got to go find someone else because they're not willing to repeat kind of a certain pattern. They've already been there and done that kind of friendship or relationship dynamic, and they want a more balanced, stable, just fair, loving relationship, and these other people might not be there yet. And some people, even as you move forward and you meet people and you're willing to work together with them, the sixes can talk about balance. And some people are like, yeah, no, that's not really quite where I'm at. I just kind of got to this stage of life and I'm still working through some issues and I'm not ready to move forward in that way. So even right away, they could be like, yep, no, you're going to have to go on ahead of me because that's not where I'm at yet. And sometimes we're just still trying to work through issues from our past that still cause us mental conflict. And that would be good for people if, say, we had to get out of some job, friendship, or relationship that we did think was kind of shadowy in some way. It takes time to work through that. Scorpio can talk about, in the Six of Cups, can talk about, it's hard to emotionally come to a place of peace about it. And it could still kind of have us in our head. And if people think, I'm just not ready to move forward in something new until I emotionally work through this and kind of wrap my head around it and make peace with it. And then when I've kind of worked through that mental conflict, then I would be ready to move forward. And you could have went through that stage. You could be here now. As you move forward, you can meet other people. They're at that stage. So again, you're just not quite on the same page right now. And high vibe energy is being a leader in the world, being a good leader in the world, being a good example. I can accept that everybody's where they're at. I can accept that some people have some issues still to work out that are maybe things I already worked through. I'm kind of more ready to move forward. They're not ready to move forward. I cannot get in my ego about it. I can just accept the truth of it. And I keep moving on with my truth. So let's go look at the bottom row, which could be some experiences we went through in the past, some experiences that some people are still in. And part of that in the Queen of Cups, which I also view as Scorpio, sometimes we don't even know we're repeating a pattern of the past. That's like the Seven of Swords and the Six of Cups. And we'll all keep repeating certain patterns until we kind of become illuminated to the truth that, oh, wow, I'm repeating a pattern. Like, I'm staying in my comfort zone. I could be in friendship or relationship with people, maybe just because they even remind me of people from my past. The Six of Cups can talk about that. And it kind of keeps me in my comfort zone because they remind me or they act like or have certain traits, characteristics, or whatever ways of being that could remind me of people in my life that I have known and that I have loved. But it could keep me repeating a pattern where instead of really thinking about, and it keeps me in my comfort zone. What are my dreams? What are my aspirations? What were my dreams, And if I keep kind of repeating a pattern and staying in my comfort zone, I'm not kind of moving forward out of my comfort zone, which might be really what I kind of always dreamt of doing, but it can be hard to give up some of those friendships, relationships, habits, vices, or whatever, because we could know that some people, they're not going to move forward with us, right? And so we could, in the Nine of Wands, kind of be defensive of that. But in the Nine of Wands, we could also be defensive to continue to do this. It's kind of like, you go on this journey of life, just like we did at all those different ages and stages of life. And we kind of learn lessons along the way. And then it's kind of like our intuition is telling us, you've kind of learned everything you needed to learn here. The Nine of Wands in Sagittarius is about higher learning and education. Out of love for yourself, you're kind of ready to go on to that next stage of life. Shed an old layer of a way of living life or viewing life. You've kind of learned what you needed to learn there. And it's just and fair for you to kind of step out of your comfort zone in some way, kind of see what are the good building blocks to take with, what are not some of the good building blocks to take with, vices, habits, patterns, people, to get the justice I deserve, kind of growing to your full potential and out of love for yourself to keep believing in yourself and keep believing in your dreams. But it can be hard to, high vibe energy, being more independent. There are things and people that I would have to become more independent of if they want to keep living their life like this. But I feel like I'm ready to kind of move forward differently. And I've probably communicated my truth and love to those people and been loving and encouraging and trying to inspire people to love and believe in themselves, work through their fears, their insecurities, their self-limiting beliefs, their past pain and heartbreak, see kind of what kind of things manipulate them within themselves and outside of themselves and the world and friends and family and whatever it is, trying to get them to see the truth, to heal from some of those things, and to move forward with you. But some people will and some people won't. And eventually, we kind of got to work through all of that. And eventually we could get to the truth that I just can't keep doing this. I feel maybe kind of heartbroken in the Three of Swords of Libra energy. I've been doing this. I've been trying to be loving and encouraging, but I can't make other people in the Judgment card. I can't make other people, if they're not motivated and inspired to work through some of these things that manipulate them, or if they are kind of being immature or defensive or manipulative or prideful or egotistical or bossy or controlling, if they don't want to see the truth of it, I might not like it, but they might not have a problem with it. It works for them. They think you shouldn't have a problem with it either. And sometimes shadowy people, again, are just hoping that we won't love and believe in ourselves, that we'll keep investing kind of in an illusion because we don't want to let go of that job, friendship, or relationship. And that we'll keep creating the illusion that everything's just fine when we really kind of feel like, again, people maybe really, in some ways, people can work together with you. They can kind of be just and fair and kind of loving and encouraging, but why? Is it more because they want to be in a relationship and that's the driving factor? Well, I want to be in a relationship. You want to be in a relationship. We should stay in the relationship. But that's like the driving factor for being in it. What about love? Well, no, we get along well enough and we like each other and we should just keep doing this. This looks, by Aquarius, also represented by the star card, this looks victorious and successful by worldly standards. Don't you want that? I want that. It's like, what about love? What if they're also being kind of hurtful and deceptive and manipulative? Or in a shadowy Scorpio, maybe they're kind of more emotionally shallow and superficial and you didn't know that when you got in the relationship. or you were hoping, they'd be more motivated by love and they'd get out of their more defensive nature and be more willing to do love, but you keep finding out they never overcome that. So it always stays a more kind of superficial and shallow relationship, and you can't have like a more deep, meaningful relationship with them because they're not willing to do that. Again, you have to, shadowy energy can be your ego. Some people love operating from their ego nature, and they have decided that that is their truth. That is the decision that they have made, which is kind of hiding that they're kind of more about themselves in a relationship. It's kind of like, I'm not going to come out from behind my ego to really be more authentic and loving and do a deep, meaningful relationship. But don't you want these things of the world? I want, the Three of Wands can be, I have this dream, kind of like Aquarius and Pisces can all be, I have this dream. Don't you have a dream? Don't you want to be in a relationship? Don't you want to look like you've manifested your dreams into reality? Don't you want to be in friendship or relationship? But they don't want to see the truth that them operating from their more defensive, self-protective, egoic nature, that might work for them, and especially if they've got a loving person in a relationship with them. You're being authentic and loving. Well, yeah, that works for them. That's like they get to be in the energy of the sun. People are being authentic and loving. But you're in a relationship with someone who's kind of in shadowy sun of their ego. Leo is represented by the sun card. And so it's kind of them operating from their ego, which looks like love, quacks like love, but is not authentically love. It's more for all these other reasons. And it's kind of them hiding that they're more self-protective of being more about themselves. And they could also think that's just and fair. Loving people should maybe want to be in a relationship. Maybe they're attractive, charming, status, image, money, male, female, whatever. But that could just be somewhere along the line they decided, oh, well, I'm sure this will work. I'm sure they'll be loving people, and because I maybe can be quite just and fair and loving and encouraging in a relationship, kind of as a living more from their mind than their heart, they'll want to stay in a relationship with me because I'm nicer, kinder, more just, more fair, more loving and encouraging than someone who's more shadowy. It's like, well, yeah, you might be more mature, you might be more stable, you might be more grounded, you might be more tempered, bright, smart, intelligent, or whatever. But it's just learning another lesson on your stage of life. Yes, I dealt with people who are much more immature and had illusions about what it meant to be in a relationship. Yes, I've been in relationships with people who are more deceptive and manipulative. But it's just another lesson to be learned. We come in contact with all these different people in the world to kind of, for us and for them, to get more clear about what our truth is and our truth isn't. Because we do have so many things that impact us. We have the people that we grew up with, is what the Six of Cups can talk about. We've had all these other life experiences with other people, good and bad, that kind of impact us. And we can all kind of be fearful of loving and believing in ourselves and learning to stand up for ourselves. So we go through all these different experiences from the time we're young and, in high school and in college or after college or first job, second job, third job. It's all these life experiences to help us get more clear about what our truth is and our truth isn't, and probably to stand up for our more loving nature from people who can try to take advantage of the people who are more motivated and inspired by love. And then that can be in the Lover's card, which is Gemini energy, the third air sign. Here we have Libra, this is Aquarius, this is Gemini. Gemini talks about our dualistic free will nature. We're either tipped in favor of being more about repeating old patterns, being more about ourselves, more about the world, wanting to stay in our comfort zone, or we're more inspired and tilted in favor of having more hope and faith and belief in ourselves, in our dreams, in love, and don't want to keep repeating old patterns. You know, loving yourself means you learn lessons in life and you heal and grow and mature yourself and you keep shedding old layers of yourself. And anybody can get to a stage of life where they're like, no, I'm good. Sometimes in my readings, I compare it to being like an apple tree. You know, an apple tree would maybe grow to be, I don't really know, 35 or 50 feet tall. Maybe could make like 500 apples. But as human beings, we do have free will. And at any stage of life, people can be like, nope, I've got a job. I'm in a relationship. I've done all the normal things that people require me to do, move out of home, learn how to drive, live on my own, get a job. Now I'm good. I'm done. I don't want to do anymore. I don't want to step out of my comfort zone anymore. I maybe didn't even want to step out of those comfort zones. And if I could have lived at home and sat on the couch all day and never had to face my fears or grow up and mature myself, I maybe wouldn't have, you know? But anybody at any point in their life can say, nope, I'm good. Well, then they can be at a workplace, a friendship, or relationship where the other people are like, oh, well, we're not done. You know, I'm still ready to keep moving forward. And sometimes that's when people realize they're kind of in the wrong job. Like, I thought I could just do this and I didn't think I was ever going to have to learn anything else, or I didn't think you'd really require me to put in more work and effort. I thought you'd kind of keep indulging me and I could just keep doing this. And people are like, no, you were supposed to do that job. And then maybe, you know, it just depends on like a job, why someone hired someone. Did people hire people expecting them to be over here? And then as those people take that job, they kind of find out that they're really not cut out for that job. It's like, you know, this might be the right job and you're going to stay here. And we might hire someone else to kind of learn from you and what you're doing, but they are maybe more inspired to put in work and effort to do this type of job. And you could be happy at that kind of job. And you know, it is like finding right people for the right fit. But sometimes people can get romantic relationships with people and they think, you know, part of the process is that you continue to keep kind of growing and healing and maturing yourself. And they get in relationships with people who created the illusion, oh yeah, I'm ready to bring that dream into reality. And if you're going to bring a dream into reality with someone, you know, they have like their dreams and aspirations, and you had your dreams and aspirations. And then the third one is that that's the common goal that we're working towards. And everybody has to be willing to sacrifice. It can't just be more their way, you know. If we're both for that common dream, we both need to be willing to sacrifice things. And that's when people could have been realize they have a harder problem with that because they were hiding. They kind of thought it was going to be more their way. So again, that can be some people who kind of have illusions about what it means to work together with other people. They might know other people are driven and motivated by what they're driven and motivated by and have their dreams and aspirations. But again, they're hoping, well, if you hire me, I don't think you'll fire me. If you date me or you marry me, I don't think, if I can just get you in it, I think you'll have a hard time getting out of it, because in a lot of ways it can be better than things you have been in, and you might have fear of if you'll find something better or comparable, right? And then that can be what they're counting on. But eventually some people are more inspired to not shadowy, more worldly energy can be about more conforming to the world, where it is all about having this certain status or image or being in a relationship to be in a relationship. And some people are more inspired to, Yes. Do I want some of those things in the world? Yes. But I'm not as manipulated by it as some people. I like to be more independent, less conforming to the world, less feeling, that I get to live my more authentic life. That the things I go invest my time, energy, and effort into, I want those to be things that I authentically want to go invest more time and energy and effort into. Not because, like, oh, well, what will people think? And this is what other people are doing. And so we should attend this function and we should talk to these people and we should do these things because that's what you should do to kind of more conform to the world. And not maybe those people don't become more independent of conforming to the world. And other people really are not less conformist. And um, like to be more independent. And then they can get in relationships with people who aren't more independent. And they really like to make their life about those things. And they could be loving people and motivated by love. It's just that those things kind of more manipulate them. But it could be friends or family or ego or image. And that could be their idea of the dream life. And so that's when some high vibe people, out of love, you know, try to make peace with it all, that everybody has the free will to live their life the way they want, in a way that they feel is just and fair and balanced and that they enjoy and that they love and their idea of the dream life. But if that's not my idea of the dream life, and I kind of could feel a little heartbroken, I could feel it's a little more superficial, I could feel like people don't realize that, maybe I could even feel like people were deceptive and manipulative. Maybe they created the illusion they were more independent, but they're not. Maybe they have things and people in their life that manipulate them. Maybe they really are kind of more about their way or the highway, but that wasn't the impression they created. But as time has gone by, as I'm trying to move things forward, being more independent, I keep seeing that they have these things that manipulate them, and I see that they're not more independent and they could be more codependent. Or that really that is more the truth of how they like to live their life, but that maybe wasn't the impression that they gave. So, out of love, some people, like, you know what? I love you. You have the free will to live your life the way you want. I can't do that. I've made peace with it. And my intuition is telling me that it's already maybe feeling overwhelming and hard to stay in it because it's just no longer aligned with my truth. At one time, it could have been just like we live life like a 15-year-old, an 18-year-old, or a 21-year-old. Was that aligned with our truth at one point in time? Yes. Does that mean we're going to think that way and feel that way and want to live our life that way forever? No. But for some people, they do, whatever stage of life they're at. They're like, no, I'm good here. It's like, okay, well, I accept the truth of it. Is it sad? Is it heartbreaking? But yeah, but you have your truth, you have your dream, you have how you enjoy life. I have my truth, and I am willing to face my fears. I can't keep living a life that seems to be more that I would be doing it more out of fear or out of codependency or the want for these things without it really being feeling that it's aligned with my truth, and maybe feeling like maybe people don't want me to stand up for myself. Maybe people don't want me to be more balanced. Maybe they're tipped out of balance and they want me equally to be tipped out of balance. Keep indulging in an illusion. And I don't want to do that. I want to be free to live my more authentic life. And some other people may never live their more authentic life. They never come out of the illusion, that's the Pisces energy, of the world, and being more manipulated by the world or by people in their life, or wanting to stay in their comfort zone and repeat these certain patterns. And it's like, I've repeated that pattern enough times, I think we should both know it inside and out. You know, how about we give birth to something new? How about, we move forward a little differently? And the other people, there would be things that they would maybe again have to become independent from, and they're not willing to become independent. And it could be habits, vices, people, attitudes, viewpoints, ways of living life. And the high vibe people do come to peace with it. I have a dream. You have your dream. I've tried to do this and try to work it out. But in our Gemini nature of self, we could have different truths in our Aquarius energy, and our Libra, and our Gemini, and our Cancer, and our Sagittarius, and our Pisces, and our Scorpio. So I wish you peace. And as I move forward, I'm going to listen to my intuition about the different people I meet. Keep loving myself, believing in my dreams, keep life in perspective and high vibe Aquarius, keep maintaining emotional balance within myself, not repeat poor past patterns, keep moving forward in a balanced way, and eventually working through the mental conflict of the fact that you're moving forward and you are more at peace and balance within yourself. You've had victory over some cycle. It takes time to work through that, and you're ready to move forward and have a new beginning. And while some people, you and other people you don't even know, and some of the people you are working with or meeting are doing that same thing, and you could be at different stages and everybody's trying to work through it, eventually the high vibe people free themselves from a place of love. Love is what helps us heal and accept the truth and deal with the truth. I can only have my dreams come into reality with people who are more on the same page as me, motivated and inspired like by the same truth. Could we at one time have been on the same page? Then as time went by, maybe, anytime you're going down the path of life, people can kind of slowly drift their life off into one ditch or the other, not kind of staying between the bumper guards of life. And we're no longer on the same page. Or we didn't really understand, we could have thought we all, we can think other people think like we think. Isn't this what you think is just and fair? Isn't this what drives and motivates you? Because that's how we think and feel, and what drives and motivates us. And they have their own ways of thinking and what they think is just and fair and what drives and motivates them. And of course, they think you would think like they think, and we realize we think differently. And the difference, between the 7 and the 4 is the 3. What kind of is our truth? What do we think is just and fair? And some people are more connected in. Some people do live more from their mind than their heart, a little more tipped in favor of that versus being more balanced and connected in also with their more emotionally intuitive nature. The high priestess is Cancer and Pisces, and could be a little more inspired within themselves by love. Other people, yes, could want to be in relationships because of love, but, maybe people are at different levels of being inspired by love, where I want to be in a loving relationship, but I kind of want to do it like this, or repeat a pattern, or stay in my comfort zone. Other people are like, well, you had your pattern and you have your comfort zone. Well, I had my pattern and I had my comfort zone. Together we're supposed to create a new comfort zone. And we could have created that comfort zone together, but then, there's a lot of things to work through in a relationship. And we could work through a lot of those things, but then it might get down to the core truth of maybe in our fire sign energy, are we still just kind of more motivated and inspired to make our life more about conforming to the world? Or in our fire sign energy, are we more inspired to keep having hope and faith and belief in our dreams and keep willing to step out of our comfort zone? And that could be where, some relationships separate. So let's go see what's coming up for the people that are moving forward in life. Now, anybody, when we do move forward in things, high vibe people also are willing to admit, I kind of view that as Scorpio energy, that we're willing to go on this adventure, because Scorpio is kind of like willing to go on this adventure in life emotionally, but we still move forward listening to our intuition, trying to maintain balance within ourselves, but also realizing not everything we go pursue is going to be the right match. Could it be just and fair? And, you get a job that, oh my gosh, this looks really great by worldly standards, but maybe kind of realizing it might be in a field that you like, but not really doing what you kind of is more what you like in your comfort zone in that particular field. That it's like, this would be great, but my intuition is telling me this isn't the right mix for me. And so high vibe people are willing to not just keep moving forward with things, kind of like in their ego, unwilling to admit that, we don't control things. We can move forward, and we can move forward in things. And it's like, oh, no, this wasn't the right fit. And then they can take some time to work through that, think about how else they want to move forward or what other job they should go apply for. And it's kind of not giving up on your dreams. It's just acknowledging that not everything is going to be the right fit or the right mix. So, and then they keep moving forward. And again, it's just like getting in friendships or relationships. Could things look really good, but if I don't think it's aligned with my truth, or we have different dreams or motivations or aspirations, again, I'm not going to move forward with it if I don't feel like it's really kind of aligned with my truth. And so it's not taking action more from ego. It's when I want to be, when the right thing seems to present itself, I want to be able to be free to move forward with that. I don't, of course, a job is one thing. You might take a job, depending on how much time you have to think about taking a job. That's a little different than getting in a relationship. I would say be friends with people and don't get in a more involved romantic relationship if you don't feel like it's the right thing. But sometimes we can move forward with people, and then it's like, oh, wait a minute. I don't think, it's getting to know people and not willing to move forward in it just because it, in a lot of ways, would seem just or fair or look victorious and successful. And as we move forward, kind of listening to our intuition, who are the people who tempt me more, and what is my truth? Do I more want to repeat a pattern of the past? Do I still have some things to work through? Have other people worked through some things I haven't worked through, and I really need to work through those things? And I think high vibe people are just going to listen to their intuition and let truth and love guide them. What's coming up for the people who harness some high vibe Libra energy? What's coming up for them they might not see coming? The King of Swords, the Knight of Cups, the Page of Cups. And the reason is because of the Queen of Wands. So I view the Queen of Wands as Leo energy. You kind of got fired up at realizing you needed to stand up for yourself in your Libra energy to protect your more hopeful, believing, loving nature and the dreams that you have, things that is aligned with your truth and wanting. I view high vibe Leo as kind of learning to love and believe in yourself, giving yourself the things that you wish other people would have given you, being willing to live your more authentic life instead of conforming to the world in a way. And because you were inspired by that, you did stand up for yourself to invest in your more hopeful, believing, loving nature, and in all three of your water sign energies, of your Cancer, your Pisces, and your Scorpio. You're more motivated and inspired by love, authentic, deep, meaningful relationships based on truth and love and justice and fairness. And if there's people in your life who they could harness their Leo and their Libra energy differently. It's like creating an illusion that's the truth of who they were, but they kind of are more emotionally invested in their self-protected, defensive, egoic nature. And so you can't really have a more deep, meaningful relationship with them. And so you wish them peace and you are moving on. And as you're moving on, when we kind of quit investing our time, energy, and effort into things and people that don't seem to be aligned with our truth, it frees us up to meet other people in the world who maybe are more aligned with our truth. And as other people in the world see you doing this, everybody knows people could go get in relationships more out of fear and insecurity and pride and ego and lust and greed and status and image. And other people see you're not doing that. And you could seem like a very just and fair and stable and balanced and loving, inspiring, charming, or attractive type of person that's kind of the Leo aspect of it. And other people could see that you're not, you could probably go deceive and manipulate people if you wanted to go deceive and manipulate people out of your own, just to feel better or something, and you're not doing that. And so other people see that, and other people, that's their truth also, and they don't want to be in relationships for these other reasons also. So I think you'll have people in your life that stand up and defend you and are inspired by you, and the people in your life that have been moving forward with you in this way that you stand up and defend and invest in, because you each are able to be, you and those people, whoever they are, able to have these more authentic relationships where the people aren't shadowy and deceptive or manipulative. They're truthful and honest and just and fair and loving and encouraging. And as you move forward in that energy, you'll meet more people who are more in that energy. And have these new beginnings in the one sword, the one cup, and the one cup. Having these new beginnings because you were inspired to not repeat certain old patterns that you saw other people were repeating. And you didn't want to repeat those old patterns, so it frees you up to meet people who don't want to repeat those same patterns. So the Queen of Cups in shadow can be where people do like repeating these old patterns. Emotionally, they could have some mental conflict about, again, seeing the truth that if they're going to be in a romantic relationship, it should be more motivated by love. They might like and love being in relationships, but it can be being more defensive of their loving nature, and so then it can be more kind of indulging themselves as shadowy fire sign energy that anyone can harness. I love being in a relationship, but I'm defensive kind of to seeing the truth that should be love, and it's kind of more like having sex in a relationship. Can they be a loving and encouraging kind of person in a relationship? Yes, they just don't let themselves do love. They don't come out from behind their self-protected, defensive, egoic nature. So then those people could be looking for someone who has gotten out of something. Generally if we're maybe looking for a new friend or relationship, we're looking for someone who's gotten out of something. So that's what everybody can kind of do. I'm looking for someone who's not already in a relationship, someone who's still not caught up on someone in their past. It's just that the shadowy people are kind of have their idea of how they expect this to go, and they don't want to see the truth that it should be more about being motivated and inspired by love. They just might want to be in a relationship that's maybe good for their ego and their image, and being in a relationship to enjoy being in a relationship. And it all can move forward just fine until the other people really want it to move forward and really bring the dream into reality, where it is more about love, or we complete this phase of the relationship and then we take it to the next phase of the relationship and they're like, sorry, yeah, no, I'm not going there. And then those people move on, and then they go look to find someone else. So it is, for some people who are more shadowy, it really is just about themselves. I want to be in a relationship to be in a relationship. Don't want to do love. Aren't really willing to bring justice to the situation or move it forward in a way that would be viewed as victorious and successful. If you're willing to stay in it, and you think it seems victorious and successful and just and fair and we're getting along, I'll move forward with you too. But the thing is, if you're not in a relationship because of love, why are you in it? And that's where we can kind of deceive ourselves, and that's where those people kind of deceive themselves. The loving people want to be in a relationship inspired by love. Eventually, those people are going to move on. And they might not want to see the truth of it, that they are more about themselves, that they are more defensive. They could like to view themselves as a more just and fair and loving person. And in a lot of ways they could be. But if you're not willing to come out from behind your ego and authentically do love, it is like your cardboard cutout person of your ego being in a relationship with people who want to do love. And that's quite different. And until they work through those things that kind of manipulate them. And for some people, there could be someone else that they really want to be in a relationship with. But as long as that person isn't coming to be in a relationship with them, they'll keep moving forward in a relationship. But if those people were to make them an offer to get back in a relationship, they would get back in a relationship with those people. And so that's kind of why when we don't listen to our intuition, if we kind of think they're being kind of deceptive and manipulative, maybe about why a relationship ended in the past, and, that they maybe really haven't healed from it, that maybe they had some growing up and maturing to do, maybe the other person did, could be hoping that one day they'll both be on the same page at the same time. And then, but the more shadowy someone is, they wouldn't be willing to tell people the truth about that. The more high vibe people are, the more willing they'd be willing to tell people the truth of that. I had growing and maturing to do. I was kind of defensive to love. I think I was drawn and attracted to certain people because I had some issues that still manipulated me that I didn't realize manipulated me, or I hadn't learned to love myself. And I kind of got myself caught up in some things. But then I did learn the lesson, and I did learn to love myself. And I have made peace with these things of the past that used to manipulate me. And now I'm moving forward in a more authentic, high vibe Leo, just fair, kind of like being an open book. And because those people move forward in that way, other people could be willing to, get back in friendships and relationships with them because their intuition tells them those people are telling the truth. The more shadowy people, because they might be a little more driven by their ego and their image and not willing to kind of humble themselves, they could be a little more deceptive and manipulative about why some of those relationships didn't work out. And well, I guess I would just suggest if they get in a relationship with someone else, not everybody needs to know your business, but they better tell the people that they get in a relationship the truth, or, because a lie, if people aren't being truthful and authentic, eventually the truth comes out. And some people move forward in relationships. They can be defensive to love. They could move forward in them as long as it's good for their ego and their image and their status, and they think that people buy into the illusion of who they are. But eventually, if those people see through the illusion, then those people will try to create an illusion about why it didn't work out. And they really had this way of living life, and they thought everybody was going to live their life that way, and they never thought some people would love and believe in themselves and heal from past pain and heartbreak, because they don't. And so then they thought nobody else would either, but other people did, and they wanted to move forward in a more high vibe relationship, and they didn't. They wanted to repeat this old pattern, so that's when they're kind of more deceptive and manipulative about it. Because people would be like, why didn't you move forward with the just and fair people? Well, because then I had to work through some of my issues, and I don't want to do that. I thought I could just go get in a relationship with someone else. And some of those things didn't work out the way they wanted. Because if they're really kind of just more about themselves, and kind of have these illusions about what it means to be in a relationship, like, I want to get in a relationship with someone else if they get in a relationship with someone else who also doesn't really want to do a more deep, meaningful, authentic relationship, they're both in a relationship wanting to be in a relationship for these ulterior purposes. And anyone could want someone to maybe heal or grow and mature themselves somewhat. And some people could be quite prideful and egotistical, like, me? You should want to be in a relationship with me. I don't have to heal or change or mature myself. You need to heal or grow and mature yourself. So shadowy energy can be where it's kind of like other people should have to heal or grow and mature themselves to be in a relationship with them. But they don't think they should ever have to heal or grow and mature themselves. And that could be something they don't want to see the truth of. What's coming up for some people who harness shadowy Libra energy within themselves that they don't see coming? The Page of Swords, the Eight of Wands, and the Two of Swords, and the reason is because of the Six of Cups. Well, the more worldly, shadowy people are inspired in their Sagittarius energy of the Eight of Wands to keep moving forward, staying in denial of the truth. They want to keep repeating a certain pattern. They don't want to step out of their comfort zone. They don't want to give birth to anything new. They don't want to see the truth that if you're in romantic relationships, it shouldn't be more about just being in a relationship to being in a relationship. But some people are looking for someone to be like a mother to them. They might have some unresolved issues, and kind of like a mother would indulge a child in a relationship where they don't really require them to grow up and mature themselves to a degree. And maybe some people had parents that didn't require that of them, and they just stayed in denial of the truth that these people repeat some poor past patterns, either being full of themselves or kind of do things that are kind of deceptive and manipulative. But they could be used to having people in their life that stay in denial of the truth of who they are. Don't kind of call them on their bullshit. And that's the kind of relationship they want. They might, as time goes by, they might have a harder and harder time finding people willing to do that. Again, the younger we are, think about, again, when we were 15, 18, 21 years old, everybody was young and new and going out in the world, and people could put up with a lot of bullshit in relationships because, they were learning all these lessons in life. They didn't have that much experience. But as people keep getting older and older, and more connected in from their life experiences to listen to their intuition and stand up for themselves and not maybe as manipulated by their worldly nature, it can be harder and harder to find people who are willing to move forward with them in a relationship, staying in denial of the truth and wanting to repeat some old pattern, being more about them, just more about the world, codependent on other people. And the more high vibe people in their life that harness that more high vibe air sign energy of Libra, Aquarius, and Gemini, those people are inspired to listen to their intuition. They're willing to get to know people, but they're not afraid of listening to their intuition. And when their intuition tells them some people are repeating some poor past patterns, we have been here, we have done this before, we can either keep defending this and stay in it, which people might for a little bit to see, how things are, but eventually during their life, they've learned to love themselves and they'll move on. And again, the shadowy people could always be surprised when, well, why do you listen to your intuition and love and believe in yourself and move on? Well, some of the other people in their life that are willing to kind of indulge them in those ways, might be their long-term friends or family members, and other people who think like that. you know, I agree. Rock on. You keep doing that. That's how I live my life too, male or female. Um, but not everybody is going to, you know, and I think they'll end up moving forward probably with majority of the people that they align themselves with could be other people who are motivated and inspired to live their life that way too. And would that be in the Two of Swords of Libra, a just and fair relationship? Yes. It's kind of like we get in these mismatched relationships, like mismatched puzzle pieces, and things happen and go on. God trying to get people to see the truth. You're a mismatched puzzle piece. You cannot complete the puzzle with some of these people or some of these vices or some of these patterns or habits. Until you see the truth of that, you know, if their dream is to live their life being defensive to love, they need to be in relationships with other people who could be defensive to love. If they want to be and like more codependent relationships, they need to get in a relationship with someone who's willing to be in a more codependent relationship. And there's always kind of the opposite, the right fitting puzzle piece. It's just that sometimes we could have had a lot of things in common with people in certain degrees. We could have had similar backgrounds. We could have had similar social activities that we like, hobbies, all sorts of things that can draw us together with people, but we're not quite a matching puzzle piece in a way. And it's like God's trying to get people to listen to their intuition about the more mismatched puzzle pieces so they can get in relationships with people that are the more correctly matched puzzle pieces. So if some more worldly, shadowy people are in a relationship right now or going to get in a relationship with someone who they think kind of lives life like they do, and if they do, then it'll be to create the illusion that it's more just, fair, motivated by truth and love. But it might be more that it looks good by worldly standards, and they do maybe have a lot in common, but they're going to kind of repeat an old pattern. The other people who really did heal and grow and mature themselves are going to get in relationships with people where it really is motivated and inspired by love. And it's just kind of, we'll all repeat patterns until we're ready. And so some people could repeat a pattern. They could live their whole life that way. And some people, like I say, don't want to see the truth, which could be, I like more codependent relationships. I either like to be the more codependent person, or I like to be play the role of the loving, nurturing person in a relationship to someone who might have more fear or insecurities, because that in turn validates me as being this loving person. It's just that they're not, when they get in those more mismatched relationships, they're not in relationships with people who kind of challenge them to heal and grow and mature themselves. And that can be why they like that kind of relationship. Those are the people that need to change. They're the more immature one. They're the more defensive one. They're the more, and they could not even care to agree if those people are being deceptive or manipulative or hurtful or unkind. It could be like a martyr syndrome. I know, look how awful they are, male or female. I know I'm such a loving person. And it's just that they didn't grow to their full potential in a way to get the justice they deserve. But if this is what makes them happy and that's the kind of relationship dynamic they like, they have the free will to manifest that, and some of them will manifest that. But if some of them get in relationships with people who really, they are more motivated and inspired by love, those people could move on, and again, they'll be defensive that other people listen to their intuition, made peace with their past, to be free to move forward, and they keep having issues from their past that they don't want to see the truth of. So it keeps them, and the past could even be how they operate in the world and in relationships. And because they don't want to see the truth of it, they keep repeating a pattern over and over and over. So there you go, Libra. I wish you peace, love, and joy, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.